Imagine this scene. A stranger approaches you. They ask for nothing. They offer you something: time, help, listening, a genuine smile. And then they walk away. They want nothing in return. No future favor, no promise, no hidden rewards. Just a selfless act. Now, stop for a moment and ask yourself, how does it feel to receive something without having to give anything in return? Strange, isn't it? In a world where everything is contracted, negotiated, exchanged, monetized, a selfless gesture feels almost like a system error. And yet, it's precisely this error that makes it so powerful. We often hear about the power of giving some money, dedicating time, offering our energy, or even devoting an entire life to others. But one question remains suspended in the air. Why is it that those who give selflessly seems to become richer than when they started, even though they receive almost nothing in return? And even more importantly, why in a society obsessed with profit, are there still people who choose volunteering, altruism, generosity? Today, I want to take you on a journey into one of the greatest paradoxes of existence. The fact that in giving, we receive, and in holding back, we often lose everything. Our mind is simple, almost automatic. Work, salary. Study, degree. Skill, profit. Favor, favor. From a young age, we learn that every action must correspond to a reward. And be careful, this in itself is not wrong. It's the mechanism that holds an entire society together. But the problem begins when this principle invades every area of our life. When we start thinking, why should I do this if it doesn't benefit me? What do I gain from it? What's in it for me? The very idea of doing something without personal gain becomes unthinkable. At that point, life stops being a living experience and becomes an accounting. Every gesture is an investment. Every relationship is a transaction. Every decision is a calculation. And this is exactly when frustration begins. Because when everything is done only for an external reward, we lose the pleasure of the action itself. We become cold, tired, detached. We no longer live in the moment. We only wait for the final result. And this is where the words of Erich Fromm becomes sharp as a blade. The true value of an action lies not in what we obtain, but in what we become while performing it. In other words, it's not the result that makes us human, it's the process. And so a spontaneous question arises. Why do millions of volunteers exist around the world? People who work for free in hospitals, rescue strangers during disasters, help the homeless, the elderly, abandoned children, donate hours, energy, and skills without an audience, without applause, without profit. Why? Are they crazy? Naive? Or perhaps they understood something fundamental that most people miss. Volunteering and altruism have one unique characteristic. They shift the focus from the outside to the inside. You don't do something to gain. You don't do something to prove. You don't do something to be seen. You do it for the simple, pure act of doing it. And here is where Seneca comes in. All virtues have an intrinsic value. They are not practiced for the sake of a reward, because the reward of a good action lies in having performed it. This changed everything. The center of the experience is no longer the goal, but the process. No longer the result, but presence. When you help someone with no expectation, something incredibly happens. You reconnect with the most authentic part of yourself, with your humanity. And today, in a hyper-digital, hyper-fast world, humanity has become the rarest resource of all. When we think about giving, we immediately think of money. But money is only one of the many forms of giving. In reality, you can give time, listening, energy, skill, words. Sometimes 1 hour of your time is worth more than $1,000. Think about it. In a distracted, fast, superficial world, the true wealth is being truly present for someone. And this applies not only for distant strangers, but even more to the people who are by your side every single day. Altruism is not only charity in poor countries. Altruism is also be kind at work. Listen to a friend without checking your phone. Helping someone without seeking attention. Supporting instead of judging. Doing good just to do good. No Instagram story. No proof. This makes us freer, lighter, more real, because it frees us from the tyranny of image and brings us back to substance. Now comes the interesting part. This is not just philosophy, it's also science. Several studies in psychology and neuroscience show that helping others activate the same pleasure areas in the brain. Volunteering reduces stress and depression. It increases a sense of purpose and belonging. It strengthens the immune system. It improves both lifespan and the quality of life. A study from Harvard University showed that people regularly engaged in altruistic activities have lower levels of cortisol, the stress hormone. In other words, when you help others, your body thanks you. That's why at the end of the day, after doing something meaningful for someone, you feel tired, but deeply at peace. It's not an empty tiredness. It's a tiredness filled with meaning. Now comes the great taboo. Many say, but deep down you are doing it to feel better. That's not true altruism. That's selfishness. And the answer is yes. And so what? It's a kind of selfishness that harms no one, improves other people's lives, creates connection, builds trust, and strengthens communities. It's the kind of selfishness that makes the world better. If everyone were selfish like this, the planet would look completely different. The problem is not the ego. The problem is when only the ego is at the center of everything. Let's do a small thought experiment. If each of us donated just 1% of our time to others, that would be around 15 minutes a day. 7 times less than what we spend on social media. Imagine what would happen. Less loneliness, less violence, less indifference, more connection. The world would not change by magic, it would change by choice. And that choice always begins with one single person. You. Try to project yourself into the future. You are at the end of your days. You look back on your life. Do you really think you will care about how many cars you owned? How much money you accumulated? How many people handed you? Or will you remember the people you helped? The smile you created? The good you left behind? The lives you touched? Because in the end, we will not be remembered for what we took, but for what we gave. As Mahatma Gandhi said, the best way to find yourself is to lose yourself in the service of others. And perhaps this is the greatest truth no one ever teaches us. In a world that teaches you to take, to earn, to win, choosing to give is a revolutionary act. is an act of freedom, because when you give without expecting anything, you are no longer a slave to the outcome. You are present, you are human, you are alive. And perhaps, in the end, true wealth is not what you own, but what you allow to circulate in the world. Before closing this video, I want to leave you with a small challenge. In the next 24 hours, perform an altruistic act in silence. Something small, invisible, free. No one needs to know, not even me. Then stop for a moment and observe just one thing. How do you truly feel? If you want, you can come back here and write just one word in the comments. The word that best describes that feeling. Not for others, for you. And if this video sparked something inside you, leave a like. Subscribe to Lumina Thinking if you want to keep exploring these deep topics with me. Because here, we don't search for easy answers. We search for new questions to live better. And always remember, by giving something to the world, you are actually giving something to yourself.